Boats and brothers, all aboard the USS Scrubs and six-packs for a day of male bonding with Grey Sloan Memorial's finest. But before we embark, we first check in at Owen's house, where Amelia is nervously looking over her notes. Today is her first day back in the OR since her tumor was removed and she's understandably nervous. Once again proving he's a better friend than husband, Owen comforts her before they reiterate their decision to divorce. They also remark on Meredith's JSA Journal of Surgical Advancement cover that she got for her paper on Megan's groundbreaking abdominal wall transplant. Amelia jokes that she's going to be impossible to live with, and perhaps she should move back in with her after all. As Meredith, Maggie, and Amelia walk into Grey Sloan Memorial, Meredith is besieged with her colleagues holding up their own copies of JSA. Even Amelia's arrogant mentor, Tom, compliments the cover girl before saying his farewell. Since Amelia is back and he cleared her for surgery, he's no longer needed. He tells Amelia to knock him dead, figuratively, before he goes. Karev asks Meredith to be nice, not mer nice but real nice to Joe because she's bummed she's not on the paper. Meredith laughs as a response before being gently teased by Jackson about her JSA appearance. Karev reminds him that he can buy his own magazine and put himself on the cover, adding that if he had Jackson's money he wouldn't be there. He'd be on a boat. Action Jackson takes Karev up on the idea, and with a few taps on his phone, he's bought himself a yacht. Not one to rest on her laurels, Meredith is facing an uphill battle with her patient, Judge King, a court hero for immigrants and domestic abuse survivors, who has stage 4A colon cancer and isn't eligible for a transplant. Her plan is to do a surgery that will be the first of its kind on the West Coast. Amelia's welcome back surgery is on a mom of 3 who needs, what else, a brain tumor removed. But Amelia is so nervous about it, especially after one of the children asks her if her mom is still going to be her mom after the surgery, that Amelia literally throws herself in the way of Tom's car as he is backing out of the parking lot. She needs him to stay to help her get through it. Arizona and April are hanging out at the nurse's station, each Tindering on their phones. Arizona tells April she accidentally broke up with Karina, but that it's okay because she has to get ready for Sophia's arrival anyway. Maggie joins them and starts Tindering as well. Bailey interrupts their swiping to ask why they're all standing around, then grabs Maggie's phone from her and swipes right on a guy named David M. Before Maggie can even process, they're interrupted with an emergency. Meanwhile, as Karev and Jackson are leaving, they run into Ben, DeLuca, and Owen. It doesn't take much coaxing to get the guys to go check out Jackson's boat with him. But because he literally just bought it, he didn't have time to find a captain, which means they're going to be all yachted up with no place to go. As the Grey Sloan Memorial Street Boys minus DeLuca, who was sent for food board Jackson's new toy with coolers and fishing poles, Karev teases Jackson about not knowing the name of his boat. It's shut it, Karev, he snaps back. Turns out $250 million buys you some shade, too. Meanwhile back in the the women are fighting over who gets to deal with Danielle, an 18-year-old brought in for abdomen pain, because they don't want to deal with Mr. Nelligan, a hypochondriac and frequent visitor to the Bailey draws the short straw, however, and tends to his requests for unnecessary tests as Arizona, April, and Maggie are trying to find out what made Danielle collapse. If you swallowed something, Arizona begins, but she's cut off by Danielle who yells, I didn't swallow it, before a gun fires, shooting both Danielle and Mr. Nelligan in the next bed. As everyone is frantically trying to figure out where the gunshot came from, Arizona realizes the wound in Danielle is only an exit wound. Did you put a gun in your vagina? She asks, as incredulous as the rest of us. Turns out Danielle's boyfriend is in prison and she was trying to mule the firearm in at his request. And you thought your love life has issues. Poor Mr. Nelligan is going to need surgery, too, which Bailey and Maggie scrub in on. As Maj starts questioning whether or not she's like Mr. Nelligan in that she makes everything harder than it needs to be, her phone pings. Turns out David M. is a match. In an attempt to be an anti-Mr. Nelligan, she tells him to meet her in the lobby at 8. Bailey tells her that her move is not gun in the oven bold, but bold nonetheless. Meredith is attempting to get the judge to sign the consent form for his risky surgery. He asks her what would she do, but ethically she can't direct him. Leave it to Joe to step in and tell him that she would get it done in a heartbeat. Before the surgery, though, Meredith goes to talk to him again to make sure he understands the risks and to explain that what Joe did was unethical. He tells her that he didn't sign the consent form because of Joe. He's signing it because his wife, who died unexpectedly 8 years ago, would tell him to fight. In Amelia's surgery, which Tom has reluctantly scrubbed in on, he tells her that the hand is mighty but the mind is weak. Before something Amelia does makes the patient's brains start bleeding. "Oops," he says, "maybe you were right. Maybe you weren't ready." Dockside, the boys have bonded over a knot-tying competition when DeLuca finally shows up with lunch, a bunch of raw fish. This prompts them to talk about their family when DeLuca bemoans that his sister ends up sleeping with all his friends. Owen ends up offering him a place to stay since he's going to have to move out of Arizona's apartment since Sophia is moving back. As they lounge around the hot tub later on, Ben admits to the guys that he's applied to the fire training academy and got in, but that Miranda doesn't know. Talk about gun in the oven, stupid. Recap continues on page 2.